Hi, JD. Welcome back.
Monday Matters.
Monday Matters. Yeah. We're still slowly working our way through
Chugging away.
the book of James.
Little tank engine that could, right?
Little train. Hey, we're going to be in chapter 3, and I'm going to pick up and read a little bit for us. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, not many of you should become teachers in the church, for we who teach will be judged more strictly." Stop. Wow. That's a heavy verse right there.
Yeah.
Indeed, we all make many mistakes. For if we could control our tongues, we would be perfect and could also control ourselves in every other way. We can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth, and a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong. In the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire, and the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. People can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and fish, but no one can tame the tongue. It is restless and evil, full of deadly poison. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of God. And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. Does a spring of water bubble out with both fresh water and bitter water? Does a fig tree produce olives, or a grapevine produce figs? No, you can't draw fresh water from a salty spring.
Woo.
Yeah, right. There's a lot there. So there's that. It starts with that that one verse that it's like a random thought, but it's a really, really big, heavy random thought. Dear brothers and sisters, not many of you should become teachers, for you will be judged more strictly. What do you think about that?
I think it's the reason I didn't want to be a pastor for so long. I'm being very, very serious. It's scary, and I think it should be scary because if you, even the act what we're doing now, we shouldn't take this lightly.
Right.
We're talking about what we believe is God-inspired Scripture, praising God from our mouth. But I know behind the scenes, I say stuff that's inappropriate, that's mean, that's terrible, that's nasty. I don't have a perfect bridle on my tongue, for we all stumble in many ways. So we should approach, I think teachers should approach whether we're preaching, doing stuff like this, reading the Bible, talking about it publicly with fear and trembling, because we're going to be judged strictly, and so we need to be careful. Yeah, I don't know. It's scary stuff. What do you think? You've been doing this, a lot longer than I have. What's your approach to this? Your perspective on this verse?
I think it's a scary verse too. I try to weigh my words over and over. And in fact, like when I write a message, I don't just like extemporaneously. Is that the right word?
I don't know.
Anyway, I don't just.
It's a Monday.
I don't just talk. I write out all my thoughts. Not that I read my thoughts, but if I don't complete the thought, I might say something really dumb.
Yeah.
And I might even still say something really dumb anyway, but at least I know how dumb it is. At least I've thought it through.
Yeah.
Because what I say, it's an incredible, almost a trip to think you are trying to speak the words of God, or the things that you say help frame what somebody might think about God, or how they might interpret, some really important things about life. And so, it's a really big responsibility. I think it's scary. I think it has to be taken seriously, but it's not just Sunday. It's also, the way I treat my neighbor. Somebody cuts me off in traffic, and I might want to yell something out the window, but wait a minute,
and I'd love to look at, I wish I had the Greek in front of me, because that word's judged with greater strictness. I'm 70% confident it's probably related to the justified that we saw, later in chapter 2. To where exactly what you says, I don't think judged with greater strictness will necessarily be related to what you and I are doing now. which is talking about the scriptures. There are a lot of pastors, great theologians who are great at talking about the scriptures,
Yeah.
but behind closed doors live opposite lives
Yeah.
where they weren't acting it out. And so when I see judged with greater strictness, I think that's in the hidden, in the private, the stuff that the people are listening don't see. Am I walking the walk? Am I acting? Faith without works is dead. Are my works lining up to exactly what you and I are talking about? And that's what the scary part, the fear and trembling come in, because I'm so aware that I'm not even close to perfect. And yet my actions, the evidence of my faith, will be held to a higher standard. Those who are teaching, I think we need to take that seriously. And that's why it's so frustrating, at least to me, when we see these falls from grace of great theologians who, again, are great at talking about the Bible, but then when it comes to acting it out, living double lives. Yeah.
Well, but the other thing that really bothers me too is sometimes people are really loose with theological ideas, or they haven't done the hard work behind the scenes to think something through completely, or they're just they add their own take on something that's just wackadoodle, and it's like you're teaching and thousands of people are watching and listening to you, and you're throwing something out that the scriptures say you can't throw out.
It's their own idea. I view our job as translating, almost as in trying to translate at least the way that we've seen God moving throughout history, through these scriptures, through life experience, and then applying it to the life experience, to the context of the people we're talking to. Because if we start inserting our own ideas, that's something a prayer I say in my head before, on Sunday. I try to say before every time I preach, help me not to get in the way.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say the exact same thing. It's a fear. If we start inserting we both have ideologies. We both have things that we believe, that we think about, that aren't necessarily here, that aren't necessarily from God, at least we believe. And if we start inserting that, that's a crime. That's bad.
It's a crime. Oh, yeah. And it's not just a crime against, it's not an illegal type of a crime, but it's a crime against the sacred desk. The sacred desk, the pulpit. It's not worthy of the pulpit. And if it's not worthy of the pulpit, man, we're going to be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
And that's a heavy thing to think about. So not many of you should become teachers. That it really causes you to really think about, is this something I want to do and be about? And I don't even think that, because it's not something I wanted to do or be about either. I was with you. I ran from the call to ministry for 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to do it.
Most pastors I know, your story's similar to my story, to most of the pastors I respect. We're all Jonahs.
Yeah, right.
And I saw a quote from a book I was reading, a book that you gave it to me. The author was talking, and I forget what is it. Something the way. Anyways, a book you gave me like 3 months ago that I've been reading through. And the author's talking about his dad. He said his dad recommended to him, everyone should try ministry at least once.
Oh, wow.
And he said, that was the worst advice I ever got. He said, every person should actually run away from ministry. You should not want to do this, and you should not try to do this. If God has chosen you from this, you have no choice. It might take you 4 years. It might take you 3 years. It might take you, however long it takes. God will eventually rope you in. And you'll be trapped, but you should not try to do this. Yeah. Not many of you you should not try to do this or want to do this.
And just to define, you said ministry, you're talking about leadership in the church.
Leadership
like this,
ministry. We all do ministry.
Yeah, everybody does ministry. Everybody's responsible.
And it's just as important as the ministry we do.
Yeah.
The stuff we do isn't, it's leadership, like you said, where it's leadership in this translating aspect of, trying to translate the guidance and direction of God over history to our context now. Yeah. You're right. That's a very important classification. What do you think about the tongue? Because right after talking about teachers, it goes into talking about the tongue and how deadly it is. What's your perspective on that? Talk about the tongue being sort of what guides the whole body. Ships.
Well, words create worlds, right?
What do you mean by that?
When I speak something, I can speak it into existence. And I'm not talking magic. I'm not like God. God spoke and the world was formed kind of thing. But when we speak words, we form ideas. We form, I don't know, sometimes coalitions. Sometimes we get, I speak words and people are against something, or I speak words and people are for, and you do the same thing. It's just, when we vocalize a thought, we put it out there into the world, and so it actually changes things. Now, there's sometimes it doesn't, but often it does.
And you said it, and I want to go back to it. God spoke the world into existence. That's so the power of words. The very world was created through God's words. I think that says something about the power of words.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
As well as the power of words and names. And I've heard you say this before in conversation, that you think names have power. Can you talk a little bit about that, the power of a name? And it's just a word, because a lot of times it's like, oh, it's just a name. How do names themselves even have power? Because that's just a word, right?
It is just a word, but okay. So I'll give you a peek into Leslie and I in our lives.
Yeah.
When we named our kids, we wrestled around with what are we going to call them, because a name is a blessing. When you give somebody a name, this little human that is yours, you give them a name. It's like you are you're blessing them with a title, and now they go out and live that title, or they take that name with them. And so I think names have power. Sometimes you hear the dumbest names, and I think it's like some of the I've heard some really bad ones. And
did you hear the celebrity name that, what was it, Elon Musk, and it was like ZBD? It was just this weird letters name. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know if that's what you were thinking about.
It's
or not.
not.
No. What were you thinking about?
But that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, there or somebody, names their child something dumb intentionally just to be mean or something. I don't know. But names have power, and names are a sign of love too. You thought it through what you named your child. And one of the things I really hate is this whole idea that you can have. Okay, so right now we're in a world where there's this culture that says that you can choose your gender, and if you choose a gender other than the one you were assigned at birth, and give yourself a new name, then your old name is your dead name. You're not supposed to speak that old name. That's my dead name, kind of thing, and that seems so cold and so cruel to your parents who gave you this blessing, this beautiful name, and you're like, yeah, that's my dead name. I'm this instead, and
it's almost this tearing of names give us identity, and also in the world from the very beginning, God speaks the world into existence. In the world is his handiwork. God's DNA, his fingerprints are over everything. And the same thing with names, right? As a parent is speaking that blessing over you. There's almost like this DNA aspect where names have power. It shapes reality itself. And so, we're in a culture right now where divorcing identity, which that's what words are, is they help form who we are. Words form who we are. And then saying, oh no, words have no more power. It's a weird world, a weird time in history we are, and I think that it's contributing to the sense of lostness that there is.
Sure.
Like a lot of people my age, and I know this because I feel it myself sometimes. Feel lost, but it's because where it's very culturally acceptable, and I see it within the gender ideology, but also within a lot of stuff where your identity is whatever you want. It's complete self individualism, complete self decision making. But then you realize, even in stuff like last names, right? Carrying on a last name where now it's not everyone does that. It's this loss. You lose your identity. You lose a sense of who you are because the power of the word is completely stripped. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you. It's
There's a little bit more there though. So God comes along and changes Abram's name to Abraham. And Sarai to Sarah. And then Jesus comes along and we have Simon, and he calls him Peter. And so you have these times where God steps in and blesses somebody with a name.
Yeah. And why would God do that if it didn't matter?
It had to matter.
It had to matter. Yeah.
And maybe I had to think of myself now differently. You know, I was Saul, but now I'm Paul, kind of thing. Where I have to, you know, there's a new start, a new something taking place now that is a significant shift.
And so the words that we use have power. They can also be used to destroy. They can be used to give identity, pass along blessing, create worlds, like you said, but they can also be used to destroy. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. Have you seen the statistics where how many compliments it takes to make up for one insult?
Yeah, I think it was 11.
11?
Yeah. In fact, when I was a youth pastor, if one of the kids, like we're in a van, we're going somewhere, and one of the kids said something like, really, like, you're dumb, I would make them stop. I'd be like, all right, 11 compliments. And then they would have to go through, well, actually, you're nice, and you look good today. And I mean, they'd have to go through 11,
Come up with 11.
things. Yeah, right on the spot every time. It was funny and probably inauthentic. But it did get them to think, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
You know, I was just joking, but yeah, those things sink, and it depends on who says them too, because I can start to believe about myself that I am dumb. You know, he said I was dumb, and he's smart. Or
Well, and again, it gets to identity, right? One
Absolutely.
tiny negative word can help. It sets insecurity in. Who am I? This person said that I'm inadequate. Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Am I inadequate? Am I not good enough for God? Am I? You know, like
It's a
you
label,
said, a small fire can set an entire forest ablaze. And I just think it's so fascinating that that's the way that our brains, our hearts are wired. Is it's not a 50-50 where one compliment is the same as one, you know, negative, but 10 or 11.
wow,
That's
crazy.
That's crazy. And it shows just how careful we should be with our tongues. I know in the scriptures, Jesus says, you know, you've heard not kill. Whoever says fool raka is in danger of the fires of hell.
Right.
Which is totally self-convicting. So I don't know. I've called people a lot worse than fool in my life.
Like what?
Well, I'm not going to say it right now on the
good,
podcast. But seriously, it really is self-convicting that what we say when we tear people down, when we insult them, even the stuff we say behind the scenes, I know I've got to be a lot more careful, you know, with my tongue, with the stuff that we say. And I know I've struggled with that over the course of my life is, you know, saying negative things, tearing people down, because we can get angry, we can get hurt and then lash out and just tear buildings down.
Here's some things never say. Never say I hate you. Never. Well, you know, Jesus comes along and says, you might as well kill somebody. You know, as to say I hate you. You're basically
It's the same
murdering
thing.
them with your tongue.
Yeah.
But that telling somebody you hate them, that's it's got a hook in it and it stays.
Yeah.
And you can go back later and say, actually, I don't hate you, and you can try to remove that hook in it, and probably you can, but you know, to say I hate you or divorce. I'm going to divorce you. Never. Don't joke like that. I mean, don't say it intentionally, and then don't just play around. Well, I'm going to divorce you. Ha ha ha. No.
Yeah.
You know, even a joke like that puts a seed of doubt that should never be there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, our words. You know, we're going to have to give an account to God for every word,
which is terrifying.
Every careless word spoken. Holy mackerel.
Wow.
You know, that is hard when you think about that, because there have been so many times when I've said a careless word or, I don't know. I don't know.
Words have power. And I'll also say, too, they also have the power to build up.
Yeah, sure. That's great. That's true.
Random compliments can sometimes make people's day. I know there have been days where I'm just totally discouraged, and one person saying one nice thing changed the entire course of that day. And again, I think it's an identity issue. If we truly, as Christ followers, we believe that every single person has value because they are made in the image of God, that they are loved by God, their creator. And if we speak that life into people, and we can do that with that kind of language, we can do it with not that kind of language too. We have a lot more sway in this world, I think, than we realize.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of times we're content. I know I am very guilty of just not saying positive words to strangers when I could. You know, I don't know.
So sometimes we praise the Lord, our Father, with our tongue. You know, we're singing and we're praising God, and then we turn around and say something cruel or something, you know, to defame somebody or something. You know, I think gossip is one of those things too that, man, you talk about lighting a fire and just letting it burn, because we can't control when you have said a lie or you've gossiped about somebody, whether it's true or not. I mean, it can be true. But you lit a fire and then you walked away, and who knows where that fire's going to go and what it's going to burn. Yeah. Dangerous stuff.
And how awesome would it be if people looked at us in the way that we talked about people, the way we refused to gossip, refused to criticize, talked with grace. If we talked so differently that people could immediately see Jesus, you know, in that. That's something to strive for, you know.
Yeah.
That would be such a witness. Wow. A lot to work on. That's what I love about James is reading through it. I'm always self-convicted. Like, I need to go home and work on this immediately, you know? And that's why I'm just glad we serve a God full of grace.
Yeah. You know, sometimes even stopping yourself and saying, yeah, I'm not going to say that. You know, you're getting, I call it filtering.
Yep.
Oh, wait, I just filtered. You know,
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but actually I decided, no, I'm going to hold that back because I don't want to give that life.
Yeah.
If I speak it takes on a life of its own and goes to places, you know, I don't even know where it lands.
Yeah.
But so I'm going to hold that one back.
That's one thing.
It's not worth.
That's one thing. So Megan and I have been married 3.5 years, coming on 4, and I would say within the last 6 months to a year, that's something that we've learned. Honesty to me is everything. To have a truly trustful relationship, both honesty with God and honesty with her. So we are fully honest about everything, even the good, the bad, and the ugly. But what we've realized is just because we feel a certain way, we can still be honest, but that doesn't mean we have to say everything that we're thinking.
That's good.
Hey, I
That's
feel
a good
really
realization.
really frustrated with you, and we're going to wait to have this conversation until we are both more level-headed, because like you said, sometimes there's no point. It's wise, it is godly to hold back and not say exactly how you feel, because you're worried that fire might catch and spread. So yeah, it's been great. It minimizes fights. It makes fights way less when you realize, you know, I don't have to say everything that I think. Like you said, it's really wise to have a filter, a godly filter on our mouths.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, but I'm telling you, it changes a lot.
I think that's great. That's really great. Especially negative stuff. But when it comes to positive stuff, remove the filter.
Yeah, no filter at all.
You see something good, say it, because that is so encouraging. And that is not my gift. I'm not naturally encouraging to people, and I want to be more encouraging. I'll try to be more encouraging.
What's your love language?
Quality time.
Quality time. See, mine is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
So,
oh, really?
So words give me life. And what I've noticed is whatever your love language is, it's sometimes the best, you know, that you're good at giving. And so I agree with you. Removing that filter and just complimenting all the time, it goes so long. I would say, especially in a marriage, it goes a long way. I would say in the workplace, it goes a long way everywhere. But sometimes it's easier for some people, and sometimes it's harder. Yeah.
Yeah, removing the filter when it's positive and keeping the filter when it's negative.
And so sometimes it's hard, right, to swap filters.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sure it is,
because
if
spaghetti strainers.
If what I'm going to say what I think. Well, when someone says, "Well, I'm just going to say what I think," and that's who I am.
Yeah.
Then you know they're kind of nuts. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah. But it's very true, because I know as a words of affirmation person, even the tiniest thing when Megan, and it can be the silliest. Wow, I really appreciated that you took out the trash. It's my job. I'm not doing anything special taking out the trash. Yeah. But even just hearing that time, she appreciated something tiny, and it still gives you life. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy how that works. So I guess that's a good takeaway for us. Remove, like you said, have those two filters, a much stricter filter for negative, a much wide open filter for positive, and let's work on swapping back and forth.
Yeah, and I don't think we never say a negative thing. You know, even Jesus, when he spoke truth, he called, you know, the Pharisees whitewashed tombs, you know, and that was, those words had a hook in them. And, and that was a very intentional, but he was calling out a truth. but we have to be careful with what we call out as truth and when we do it. So it's good stuff. Yeah. James, what a great book. All right. You got any other thoughts?
Looking forward to, so we just ended with 12 and looking forward to finishing the rest of chapter 3.
Beautiful.
But yeah, Monday matters, and appreciate all of you joining.
Catch you next week.